really extensively, but we just talked about freeing up that money. And like Tyler Linderbaum, his market value is at 17.7. Some are saying that you're going to see him crack the 20 million mark. I don't care. If he cracks the 20 million mark and you've got that money freed up because you decided to move on from Elton Jenkins, you decided to move on from Rashawn or restructure there, and then you got a little bit of money in the piggy bank from Aaron Banks being cut post June 1, I would say go get Tyler Linderbaum for 20 million. And here's what I would say to those that are going, no, that's too much money. That's too much money. Okay. How many times are we going to do this, guys? I'm genuinely asking. How many times are we going to go out and draft a young center and then, well, he's a rookie. He's got to give him time, got to bring him along and this and that, right? So you did it with Josh Myers. Think about when the offensive line was stout. We always talk about this offensive line used to be great. It was when Corey Linsley was here. You guys remember? When he was your center. That was the last time you felt really good about this offensive line. I don't think it's a coincidence that you tried to pinch pennies and you've tried to finagle your way into drafting a guy. I mean, you literally took Josh Myers over Creed Humphrey, which might be one of the worst overall picks in Goody's. That's something on Goody's resume where I'm like, oh, boy, that's tough. Because you fell in love with the athletic freak, you know. But with that being said, how many times are we going to do this before we just button this up? And I kind of feel like they started to lean into it a little bit last year, Jacob, because they did move Elton over to center. That to me, that told me they realized, okay, we got an issue. We need to fix this issue, right? I think that was a step in the right direction. Nonetheless, it didn't get the job done. It didn't work, right? There was nobody. I know I wasn't sitting here going, this is a stupid move. I liked the move. I really thought Elton would make that transition. I was wrong too. So this isn't I told you so situation, but yeah, that's the way I would approach it though, man, is go get Tyler Linderbaum. Stop messing around, man. Go get that if he's available. And if he's not, you'll see Connor McGovern there too, 28 years old, a little bit older. 16.2 is his number. That's a little bit of a high number for him, in my opinion. However, if his market falls a little bit flat and you can get him for 13 or 14 million and Tyler Linderbaum either stays with Baltimore, let's say he stays with Baltimore, then I would be okay maybe going that route as well. You might want to go get a guard, one of these top guards, like a I don't know, let's look on the list here, like a David Edwards, 28 years old from Buffalo. They're showing 19.9 as his. That's a little too much for me at guard. I don't prioritize guard like I do center, as you can notice. To me, it's tackles, then center, and then work your way in the middle there with guard. I mean, we went out and spent a bunch of money on Aaron Banks and it didn't work out. So why not take a back seat to that and let's make sure we shore up the center position. So anything you got to add to that in terms of the offensive line?
Yeah, I like what you said. It's tough because we always look back at what could have been, and that's hindsight 2020. Everybody's an armchair quarterback. Everybody thinks that they know, oh, we should have done this, we should have done that. I was going to highlight that exact comment there, Clay. Creed Humphrey could be a cut candidate. Packers should sign him if he is. He went on to clarify, I meant a trade candidate. And so if that is the case, I mean, what would you be willing to give up, let's say, for a type of center that has actually performed? To me, it's still Linderbaum. Like, just go for it, man. And like you said, I don't know the amount of money that, like you guys know I'm a cheapskate, but at that position, Clay's convinced me over the last few years that center is a priority. I mean, if you really just think about it, literally, the name says it all. He's the center of the offense. Like Nobody touches the ball other than him and the quarterback every play, in theory, other than, actually, that's not even true. It's the center that touches the ball for sure every play.
Right.
So,
because you never know when Tucker Kraft's going to motion over.
Yeah. Or when he's going to, lob it over his head or whatever the case may be. It just is the thing where I am convinced now that needs to be kind of the field general, besides obviously the quarterback and besides the green dot on the opposite side. We need people that are absolutely tuned in, that know how to set coverages, that know how to set the different types of, like calling out just basically whatever the defense is starting to do. I feel like that's Jordan Love's best friend, is a guy that can actually understand to set the protections, to know what's going to happen in a split second. And that's not an easy thing to do. These guys aren't just they're not grown on trees, right? Like, you can't just go pluck a Linderbaum off the tree or whatever and just accept that I like Jacob Monk. I like his potential. I like the way that he's progressed. Obviously the injuries have kind of hindered him a little bit, but I'm not putting all my eggs in that basket, man. I'm just not.
In terms of trading for Creed Humphrey, I don't like it on the surface, but it always comes down to what are they going to be willing to take, right? Are we going to trade will we be willing to trade our second round pick for Creed Humphrey this year? I don't like that idea. I don't like trading a second round pick and having to pay him, break the bank to pay him. You know what I mean? Now, if it's something that, they just want to get out of the contract, get out, out from under it or whatever, fifth round pick. Absolutely. I'd be okay with that. Right. Because Creed Humphrey is up there with Tyler Linderbaum. There's no doubt about it. Those are two centers that are like, okay, they're at the top of their craft. So I get it. It's just, that wouldn't be a bad backup plan, I don't think, if Tyler Linderbaum doesn't hit free agency. But again, we're just talking about what we would do, what we would be interested in, what we would be willing to entertain. I don't know if Goody would be willing to entertain this stuff. I really don't, because I think there is a lot more ego there with Goody than most people kind of lead on. It does feel like he's just kind of, we've seen it with him and Rodgers, right? He didn't want Rodgers to have input, and hey, look, you got to respect it. He's the boss man. If that's the way he feels, that's the way he feels. But you've kind of seen it over and over and over again. That we march out this youngest roster, and I don't want to bash him too bad because I think he has done a good job. But I will say I was listening to Wildy and Tausch yesterday while I was on the go running errands, and Wildy, he kind of caught on too. He was like, pointed out that Mark Tauscher used to be a big Goody stan, and now Mark Tauscher is kind of like, becoming a little more like, okay, yeah, maybe he isn't, what's the word I'm trying to use? Untouchable, I guess you could say, right? Again, not saying he's a bad GM, but there's 3 or 4 GMs in the league that are running laps around Goody right now. And I hope it bothers him. I hope it does kind of motivate him to go, all right, I got to get on my P's and Q's. We got to get this roster really, really amped up.
I think that's going to make this draft more intriguing than maybe any draft we've seen in a long time, because it does feel like his back is kind of against the wall. But at the same time, it's like you said, he's kind of established himself. But at the same time, also, it's like, you're going to have to show us what you got here, buddy. We need to actually have a really, really good draft.
Yeah. So again, we talked about offensive line, and let's say that Linderbaum does not hit free agency. Let's say that none of those free agents really grab our attention. So now we know going into the offseason, we're looking for Elton Jenkins' contract to fall flat in free agent, his market to fall flat, potentially bring him back, and you're kind of bringing the same crew back, so to speak, in that regard, at a discounted rate, or obviously you go in the draft and you go after a Jake Slaughter, you go after maybe a Logan Jones or a Parker. Brian Parker's a guy now that seems to be screaming up the draft board as one of the top, if not the top centers. Connor Lew, you're not going to get him back till October with the ACL, obviously. So there's a couple of different options there in terms of center, none of which I'm crazy about starting a rookie there. I would much rather have Linderbaum. But let's say Linderbaum does just re-sign with the Ravens. He don't even hit the market, right? Now maybe we shift our focus to cornerback. And when you shift your focus to cornerback, who on this list, would grab your attention and say, hey, look, I wouldn't mind to go sign this player. The one that comes to mind for me is Trevon Diggs, hands down. If you can get Trevon, and this number is about where I expected it, to be honest with you. His previous average annual value is 19.4. They're showing his market value at 7.5. We had him on the books for 15, and we said, hey, let's cut him, let him test the market, get him back at a discounted rate. If you can get Trevon Diggs at $7.5 million, you nab him up in free agency, $7.5 million cap. It's going to be about $5 million the first year, right? And then you go into the draft and try to grab maybe a second round pick at corner, or maybe you go, third or fourth round pick at corner, that type of thing. You could really free up, or you could shore up that position at least, as opposed to just going, all right, it's all for naught here in free agency. So what do you think about that? Like, if you can't, let's say you do get Linderbaum. Let's do it this way. Let's say you do get Linderbaum for $20 million per, and his first year cap hit is $15 million. Okay, so there's $15 million against the cap. We said we were going to free up 30, but you were going to have another whatever it was, another I can't even remember the number now. $18 million for Aaron Banks that's going post June 1, so that's on the books for next year. So if you're going in with $30 million, okay, and you get Linderbaum, and it's going to be $15 million against the cap in 2026. You got another 15 to play with. You go and sign Trevon Diggs for 7.5. Now you've got your $7 million operating money that we talk about. And this includes the cap hits from the draft class, all baked into the equation here, guys. If you go that route, and then you go into next year and bang, you're going to free up another $18 million as soon as you get post June 1. You now essentially have $25, $30 million next year in cap space right out of the gate, which is really, really interesting. Because again, this number that we threw up here a second ago, notice the cap by just making these moves here, guys. cutting Rashawn Gary, cutting Elton Jenkins, and then, of course, post-June 1 cut with Aaron Banks, your cap space for 2026 is $47.1 million. 2027, Jacob, $123.9 million under the cap right now. There's plenty of space to move here. And again, this is all according to Over the Cap and their tools that they have over there. So, cornerback, Jacob, what do you think about that? Is there anybody else you'd rather have other than Trevon Diggs? Eric Stokes. It's interesting, but I don't think they'll go that route, to be honest.
I don't think they'll go that route either. It would be very interesting because all of a sudden, if you like, we talked about Goody's ego, and if he's like, I told y'all, I just had to get him a little different scenery. Let's bring him back. No, the Trevon Diggs thing does make sense to me. The other one that kind of flashes a little bit for me would be Greg Newsome, just a little tick above him there. I think that he had, again, kind of a slow start. Very highly touted out of college. I remember people talking about him thinking he's going to be a pretty good guy. Yeah. I like the idea of bringing him in. I think Jacksonville's had a pretty good squad. That'd be one guy. I'm not quite sure if he's maybe more like a man press, outside corner, or like what his specialty is. But honestly, in that cornerback room, we can't help but get a few guys no matter where they play. I mean, it just feels like that's our bleeding need right now. And I think that we talked about that going into last season, and then we all kind of convinced ourselves like, nah, we got this. This is good. It's going to be fine. And, I think we've talked about this prior. I'm kind of over the Keyshawn Nixon experience. I'm just kind of soured on.
I just want somebody to check him. I want the new coach to go in and go, hey, listen, look, playtime's over. We're not running our mouth. We're not doing this whole damn song and dance again. Okay. We're going to put our nose to the grindstone and let him buck and go, well, I'm a Pro Bowler. Get the hell out. There's the door, bub. Don't let it hit you in the ass. You know what I mean? Like, somebody's got to come in and check him. That's one thing that I will say was a negative with Hafley. You didn't feel like he held his players accountable. He was a great defensive mind, but I never came across like, I'm sorry, man. The second that I see Keyshawn refuse to tackle a ball carrier in a playoff game at the goal line, his butt is on the bench. And you didn't see that happen. That bothered me. The personal foul was enough. But, yeah, in terms of Greg Newsome, is that his name? Yeah, Greg Newsome.
Yep.
I'm not a huge fan of it, Jacob. There's been many fans. I've gotten raked over the coals for this over the years. I've never been that impressed with him. He is a former first-round pick. He was the 26th overall pick, if I remember correctly. His PFF grades right here, 68, 69, 66, 52, 54. Yeah. So he's actually, it seems as if he's getting worse now. According to the market value here that we had attached, he must have done something statistically to improve his stock. I'm not saying someone won't give $9 million for him, but for me, it would be, like I said, a Trevon Diggs would be at the top of the list for me. Hell, I would rather bring back Rasul Douglas at $4 million before I would do Greg Newsome.
Yeah, actually, you know what? Now you've convinced me. And plus, I still do think that there has to be something said for the fact that Trevon Diggs has a lot of relationships with guys in our locker room already, obviously with the Micah Parsons, a few others that I think that he seemed like he gelled really well just immediately. And the limited snaps that we saw, which again, they're very limited, it does, like, sometimes it just takes a change of scenery. That's what we obviously just talked about with Stokes. Like, we all were ready to write this dude off into the gutter. He goes down to to Vegas, and it was one of the top 10 free agency signings that hurt me. That hurt me to have to read that article. My dad and my brother were like, why did we do this? It's one of those things. Again, you look at like hindsight 2020 and you're like, oh, and everybody, I promise you, there was 99% of the fan base that wanted him out. And then you see that type of production that he did over there, and you're like, well, darn it. Maybe it was again, it goes back to, are we using these players in the right ways? You know? Right. And is Goody drafting certain players that fit whatever scheme we have currently, or is he drafting players that just, I hate comparing him to Al Davis, or there's like, well, he's fast, we can use him. It's like, well, really?
Right. And let me ask you this. What, if you had to guess, what do you think Rasul Douglas's PFF grade was last year?
If I had to guess, I'd say 72.
You're right there, 73.5.
Really? Okay.
Yeah. Now, the one that surprises me the most, I'm just kind of throwing some of these on a list here. It's showing Nashawn Wright as the highest value here at 16.6, probably because of interceptions, I would imagine. His PFF grade was only a 65.9, but at the top of the list that I'm looking at here, Jamil Dean from Tampa Bay, 80.6. was his PFF grade, 75.9 coverage grade. And again, I know he's a little bit older, guys. He's 29 years old. He'll be 30 this year. But you get him on a 3-year deal that's really a 1. Sign me up. I would be okay. I think that would help you a lot there. So, all right. So there you go. There is just a quick little breakdown of some of the free agents that you might want to spend some of that money on. Again, to me, it feels like you should try to press into offensive line. You should try to press into cornerback. If you can get one of each in free agency at a decent deal, I love it. If Linderbaum comes off the table and you got to go get a discounted veteran offensive lineman, I'm okay with that too, right? Like just get you some veteran presence in place at both of these positions. Do the same thing with corner, and I think you're going to put yourself in a good situation going into the draft. That's why I don't like trading for Creed Humphrey if you have to give up a big pick like that. However, if you were to tell me, hey, you can draft Creed Humphrey in the second round, would you run that card? You would run that card, right? So I'm not saying it's an easy decision to make. It would come down to the dollars and cents in terms of his contract is where I would have a problem with it. It's like, okay, you got to give up a pick and you got to give a huge contract. We just did that with Micah, so there's a little bit of precedent there. But anyway, if you guys are watching this back later, let us know, where would you spend that money we talked about freeing up? Where would you spend it in free agency? And maybe what would your plan be in the draft as well? The comments have been on fire in our YouTube video comment section. I love getting there and talking ball with y'all. So keep those coming. Obviously, the live chat's always smoking here as well. So again, let us know in the comments how you feel about that. Make sure you hit like, subscribe, click the bell icon so you're always up to date with what we're doing here. All right, Jacob. Let's just hang out with the chat here. I thought about doing a mock draft, but we're in good shape. We're going to go live again later today after Goody speaks, and we may do a mock draft a little bit later.
What time is he speaking today? Just if the chat wants to follow along.
I think it's 11:30 Central is what I heard, 12:30 Eastern. So again, when he goes live, I got to be real. I'm prepared to do a mock draft this afternoon because you know how it is, man. They don't ever say anything.
Looks like 12:30 Central time.
There you go. Oh, so it is Central. Okay, cool. So when that does happen, I'm not expecting him to go, oh, wow, that was interesting. Now, if he does say something that's revolutionary, then yes, I'll go live immediately and we'll cover it. But we'll see if we can get any information. That's another thing that bothers me about general managers, and specifically Brian Gutekunst. Matt LaFleur has taken this heat all year long. He has to stand at that podium every single week. And again, you guys know how I feel about the roster being so youthful and this and that, and the inexperience is going to lead to mistakes and collapses in big games. Yeah, exactly. Coach Lynn. Wait, Goody actually talks. It's just like he's kind of hiding in the background while Matt LaFleur is taking all these shots, right? And then all of a sudden, once a year after the dust settles, he gets up there, doesn't say anything, and he goes on about his day. It's like, man, that's a tough look for me. Yeah, word salad, Coach. There you go. You got it, man. So, all right.